Hello fellow travelers, welcome back to the old forest. Today, I want to build a unique shelter, a house that blends into nature. No phone, no internet, just me and the breath of the forest and mountains. I wandered around searching for a sturdy hillside to use as a base. This location is perfect, with hard clay soil and a gentle slope. It helps block the cold winter winds and drains well during heavy rains. Next came the biggest challenge, lifting the enormous crossbeam. The beams were joined together using traditional mortise and tenon joints. Once the beams clicked, I nailed them securely in place. Finally, the beam was in position, and the house frame was complete. The feeling of victory when I successfully slid the wooden beam into the mortise was overwhelming. Two wooden side walls were finished. Now it was time to tackle the back wall. Before building the wall, I left a square gap in the middle. This would be where the fireplace, the heart of the cellar, would be placed. But the stone wall wasn't deep enough to hold a large amount of firewood. Using a short shovel, I dug a small cavity deeper into the clay wall. This digging was difficult because the space was narrow, and the soil was compacted. I had to be careful not to damage the soil structure above. This deep cavity kept the fire contained, safe, and allowed for good heat retention. Next came the most important step in determining comfort: laying the floor. The floor couldn't be placed directly on the damp, cold ground. I placed horizontal wooden joists to raise the floor slightly. This gap created an air gap, allowing for ventilation. It prevented moisture from the ground from seeping up and rotting the floorboards and causing mold. I nailed each plank in place, creating a smooth, clean surface. The sound of the hammer striking the wood was solid, signaling that the living space was ready. Now I can move around inside the house without worrying about getting dirty with mud. When I reached the fireplace, I had to handle it very carefully. I used small stones arranged in a circle to protect the opening. This technique prevented earth from falling inside and maintained a safe distance. Then, I continued building with clay and stones until it reached a high level. The chimney needed to be higher than the ground to create a chimney effect. The pressure difference would help draw the smoke straight up and out. The rough structure is finished. Now it's time for the finer details. I began precisely measuring the dimensions of the openings I had left. The biggest challenge was the uneven surface of the wood. Fitting a square wooden frame into a crooked opening was very difficult. I constructed the outer wooden box frames before fitting them in. These frames act as the backbone for attaching the doors later. I used sawn pine wood, plain smooth to prevent splinters, and I used a hammer to securely fasten the door frames to the wall. I built a large fire, placing the door surface directly in contact with it. This is the Japanese technique yakusugi or shosugi ban. The flames lick the wood grain, turning the outermost layer into black charcoal. This process required intense concentration to prevent the wood from burning to ash. I moved the plank continuously, ensuring the fire ate evenly across the surface. Chemically, the fire burns away the cellulose, the food source for termites, on the surface. The remaining carbon layer is impervious to water and extremely durable over time. house was finished, but the land in front was still muddy. I wanted to create a clean buffer zone between the wild forest and the house. I continued hauling large stones, arranging them in an arc around the perimeter. This wasn't a retaining wall, but a boundary defining the front yard. I placed the stones low enough to prevent mud from the hillside from running down. The difficulty here was choosing stones with perfectly flat surfaces. They would act as a natural outdoor bench. I wedged smaller stones into the gaps to prevent the wall from shaking. On nice days, I could sit here basking in the sun and watching the stream. This low wall creates a cozy feeling, embracing the entrance to the house. The final problem, clay soil turns into a slippery muddy puddle when it rains. I didn't want to bring dirty mud onto the clean wooden floor. I found the largest, flattest flagstones to use for the path. The stone laying technique requires meticulous attention to detail. Flatness first, smoothness second, stability third. If not placed carefully, the stones would wobble when stepped on. I planted moss in the gaps between the stones to hold them together. Each step is now firm, leading straight to the charred wooden door. This small path is the final brushstroke completing this masterpiece. The hard work at home was done, and I needed some fresh air. The front yard was beautiful, but it lacked a decent place to sit. Sitting on the rocks was cold. Sitting on the ground was dirty. I needed a chair. I used the crook tree trunks I had found earlier. In rustic woodworking, Natural curves are the most valuable. Before joining the joints to create the shape, I chipped away the bark to expose the white flesh of the tree trunk. The oil lamp hung up, its warm yellow light illuminating the space. In the middle of the forest, this simple light was enough to illuminate a peaceful corner. Sitting on my homemade chair, gazing at my house, I felt a sense of peace. This construction journey took a lot of my sweat and energy. The most difficult part was transporting the heavy stones and facing the sudden rain. The slippery clay made moving around extremely dangerous and arduous. But looking at this finished product, all the fatigue seems to vanish completely. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to see the next part. Now, I'll take a short nap in this secret basement. Goodbye and see you again.